If you're a teacher or educator that has an interest in teaching climate change, then this set of films is going to help you do just that. It comes in short parts and each part is around 5 minutes long. First, the basics of climate change, then how to teach it, including where to find some of the best free resources for a range of age groups. And finally, the best solutions to climate change, as this is often missing from climate change lessons, despite it being the most important part. First, who am I? I'm a climate change educator with 20 years of experience teaching this topic in universities, schools, and at public events. I've also presented my climate solutions research at a United Nations climate change conference. So let's get started. The basics of climate change science. Climate is an average of the weather over several decades. Our climate has changed throughout Earth's history, but according to national science academies in Africa, Asia, North and South America, Australia and Europe, NASA, the European Space Agency, and pretty much all scientific papers on the topic, it is currently driven by the emissions from the burning of fossil fuels. That's coal, oil and gas, and a smaller amount due to land use change. So how did they come to this conclusion? Firstly, we can measure the effects of our emissions using satellite and ground stations, and secondly, the rapid speed at which the global climate is changing cannot be explained by the current direction and size of natural factors, such as the sun, volcanoes, or wobbles in the Earth's orbit, which we can also measure. Our emissions from the burning of fossil fuels and natural gas leaks slow down energy loss to space, and this causes a rise in the Earth's temperature. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports, which are a summary of the evidence available from thousands of scientific studies, the planet is warming at a rate of about 1 degree Celsius every 50 years. To give some context, the warming rate since the last so-called ice age, or peak glacial period, was about 1 degree Celsius in 2,000 years. So current warming is more than 30 times faster than the average warming rate since the last ice age or peak glacial period. A rapid warming rate is hard to adapt to, and the more warming we have, generally, the worse the effects become. So the science academies and experts recommend we reduce our emissions as soon as possible. Many countries have signed up to bring their emissions down to net zero by 2050 as part of international agreements, but some are planning to do so well before 2050. Some nearer to 2050, and a handful haven't even given a date yet. Action has been complicated by delays brought about by political decisions and the fossil fuel industry resisting change through various, and not always honest, methods. So what has already changed so far in our climate? Firstly, each of the last 4 decades has been warmer than the one before it. The global upper oceans are warming, and the ocean chemistry is changing. Heat waves are becoming more intense and more frequent across most of the planet. Heavy precipitation events, that's things like rainfall, are becoming more frequent and intense. Human-induced climate change has contributed to increases in agricultural and ecological droughts in many regions, as soils and plants lose water through evaporation. Global ice loss has accelerated. Sea level rise has accelerated. It's likely that the numbers of major tropical cyclones has increased over the last 4 decades. Now, this is not a complete list of all the changes, but some of the major ones. So overall, key points to get across when teaching climate are as follows. It's warming, it's us, it's fast, it's bad, but it is solvable. In the next part of this video series, we'll look at some of the ways you can teach climate change. And then in part 3, we'll look at the most important part, the solutions.